Wang Lin scanned it with his divine sense, then slightly frowned. This skeleton was very weird as it was white. Although it was not abnormal for a skeleton to appear here, the color of the bone should have changed with the passage of time, and there should have been signs of corrosion. However, this skeleton had no sign of any of those. Also, the ball of light in the skeleton's hand contained a sliver of celestial energy, so it was definitely not a normal object. Wang Lin didn't know why, but he felt a sense of danger. He pondered for a bit before watching coldly from afar. Third senior brother's eyes lit up and he said, "Sixth junior brother, go up and see what that ball of light is." Sixth junior brother hesitated before nodding and walking forward. Just as he was getting a closer look, Wang Lin suddenly felt that sense of danger becoming even stronger. Just at this moment, the third senior brother suddenly shouted, "Back off!" As he spoke, he waved his hand and the sword flew off his back and slashed at the space just in front of sixth junior brother. The skeleton turned to dust and the ball of light flew into the air. A sliver of energy shot out from the ball of light and charged toward the sixth junior brother's brow. At this moment, the sword energy arrived. The sliver of energy let out an unwilling roar as it drilled into the wall and disappeared. This scene happened in a blink of an eye. Sixth junior brother's forehead was covered in cold sweat as he silently stared at third senior brother. Sixth junior brother chase. Third senior brother revealed a very excited expression as he said that sentence and quickly chased after it. Sixth junior brother hesitated for a bit before clenching his teeth and followed. "Senior brother, what the hell was that? Our luck is pretty good. If my guess is not wrong, that is feed for the celestial beasts, something the celestial beasts love to eat. Normally speaking, there are chances of finding celestial beast souls where these feeds are found. That skeleton before must have been ambushed by it, and had all of its flesh devoured by it. Junior brother, please don't blame me for this, I just realized what it was, otherwise, I wouldn't have asked you to check." The third senior brother explained as he continued to chase. Sixth junior brother lowered his head and slowly said, "Mere feed for celestial beasts and it has that much power. If that thing had entered my brow, I would have turned into a skeleton." Third senior brother laughed and said, "Junior brother doesn't need to worry. That thing completely relies on physical attacks and has no abilities at all. It fears techniques and abilities the most. As long as you don't let it enter your body, all you need to use is your sword energy, and you can easily split it in two." As the two chased, Wang Lin followed behind them. Although the two Marshall brothers looked like they had a good relationship, Wang Lin could easily see that the third senior brother had evil intentions. The scene from before was clearly because the third senior brother noticed that something was off and used his junior brother as bait to lure out the feed. Wang Lin casually followed behind them as his divine sense focused on what was before him. He saw the two brothers pursue through the cave system as they continued to go down. Before long, they were in the deep parts of the cave. The third senior brother felt slightly uneasy. Although he had been here once before, he had never gone this far in and wondered if he should continue chasing. Just at this moment, Wang Lin noticed that the celestial beast feed's speed slowed down, and it disappeared into a fist-sized hole in the wall. Wang Lin's divine sense quickly followed it in and his expression quickly changed. He saw that the walls inside the cave were covered in these thin lines with one end buried inside the wall, and the other end slowly swinging back and forth. In the middle of the cave, there was a small piece of white jade emitting dense celestial spiritual energy. Besides the jade, there was a skeleton whose bones were black. There were bits of broken clothes on the skeleton, but in front of his chest was a piece of metal that was releasing a powerful pressure. In addition to all of this person was also holding a sword. This sword looked very similar to the celestial sword he had seen in the illusion. In addition to all of this, what shocked Wang Lin the most was a black line that was moving in and out of the skeleton. Every time it moved, the skeleton would tremble as if it were reviving. Wang Lin stopped moving and, without any hesitation, quickly backed up to a hole in the wall. He took out his restriction flag to wrap around his body and became exactly like the wall beside him. The third senior brother flying in the front also had his divine sense spread out and immediately noticed the cave and stopped. His face immediately became pale. Inside this small cave there were at least tens of thousands of celestial beast feeds. At this moment, the sixth junior brother also noticed this and his expression became ugly. The two looked at each other and slowly backed away. But it was too late. The celestial feeds charged out of the small hole and appeared before the two in the blink of an eye. Third senior brother's expression changed immediately. Without any hesitation, he shouted, "Two-sword spirit world." His sword flew into the air and slashed down. Sixth junior brother clenched his teeth and also sent his sword up and slashed down as well. Suddenly, two rays of sword energy became like two dragons intertwined together and destroyed all of the celestial beast feeds that were charging at them. Then it crashed into the hole on the wall, making it 10 meters wide. This power caused many parts of this already unstable celestial beast temple to collapse. More slivers came out from the hole. Inside the cave, the black skeleton was extremely eye-catching. "Let's go." Third senior brother immediately retreated after saying one line, and sixth junior brother quickly followed with his scalp tingling. The speed at which the two were retreating couldn't match the slivers, so after only a few steps, the slivers had already caught up. A vicious look flashed across the third senior brother's eyes as he raised his hand and landed a hit on the sixth junior brother's back. Sixth junior brother's head suddenly turned around with a mocking expression. His hand quickly caught third senior brother's hand and he said, "Third senior brother, what were you planning on doing?" With that, his aura suddenly changed. His cultivation level changed from someone who had just stepped into the early stage of soul formation into mid-stage soul formation. He quickly grabbed third senior brother's bag of holding and sword before throwing third senior brother toward the celestial beast feeds. "You!" Third senior brother's expression suddenly changed, but before he could finish speaking, the swarm of slivers drilled into his body. In an instant, the body of an early-stage soul formation cultivator turned into a skeleton. His origin soul suddenly flew out, but just at that moment, the sixth junior brother formed seals to block his path. This pause made the origin soul lose its chance to escape, but the black line suddenly shot out and dug into the origin soul. By the time the black line left, the origin soul had already been devoured by it. "Sorry, senior brother." Seeing what had happened, the sixth junior brother quickly escaped using the time third senior brother had bought with his life. When this person passed where Wang Lin was hiding, Wang Lin's eyes lit up, but he didn't recklessly move. Sixth junior brother flashed by Wang Lin. A few breaths later, the swarm passed by as well. Wang Lin was very nervous as the swarm passed by him. As the swarm passed by, the black lines paused for a moment but quickly continued to chase sixth junior brother. After these slivers passed by, Wang Lin waited for a few moments before charging toward the cave that had been opened up by the sword energy. His body was as fast as lightning and appeared inside the cave. Suddenly, some remaining slivers came out of the wall and charged at Wang Lin. Wang Lin let out a snort and used his restriction flag to block them. He knew that he was short on time, so he reached toward the sword in the skeleton's hand without any hesitation. But suddenly, a powerful pressure came from the sword. It was like Wang Lin's hand was pressing on spikes, as small holes appeared on his hand, causing him to quickly pull back. At this moment, the swarm was heading back with the black line in front. When Wang Lin saw this with his divine sense, he immediately gave up on the sword and grabbed the jade. He decided to give up on taking the piece of metal and quickly charged out of the cave, moving along the wall. The swarm returned to the cave and then a terrifying roar came from inside. The black line quickly charged out of the cave and waved its body for a bit before chasing after where Wang Lin went. Wang Lin moved as fast as he could through the cave, and as he flew, he released wandering souls with a simple command to help him confuse the black line chasing him. As he escaped, he could feel the wandering souls being destroyed one by one. He could see through the wandering souls that the black line seemed to have gone mad, as it was charging through the walls of the caves and destroying all the wandering souls. There were many caves in the Celestial Beast Temple, but many were destroyed in the disaster a long time ago, and more were destroyed under the power of the two swords. Now, with the black line charging through the walls like crazy, many caves were able to withstand it and collapsed. This caused a series of chain reactions, so a lot of caves collapsed as well. As Wang Lin flew, he tried to teleport, but every time he did so, he felt a force surrounding him and interrupting his teleportation. He let out a sigh as he stopped trying and continued to fly upwards. He slowly felt that the amount of wandering souls he had left behind stopped decreasing. The black line had clearly lost track of Wang Lin. However, just as this moment, rumbling sounds came from all around him and Wang Lin quickly backed up. The cave before him suddenly collapsed. When he spread out his divine sense, he found that more than half of the celestial beast temple was now buried. If immortals saw this, they wouldn't know what to do, but Wang Lin had already reached the soul formation stage, so as long as he doesn't meet that black line, he will have nothing to be afraid of. He pondered a bit but didn't leave immediately. He spread out his divine sense and was shocked to find that the sixth junior brother hadn't died. He was moving through the caves close by, and from the direction he was traveling, he wasn't going up but was coming toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he let out a playful smile. This sixth junior brother was a ruthless person. He hid his cultivation level until the right moment. From the looks of his path, he was coming toward Wang Lin, but Wang Lin wasn't sure of his objective. If he comes with intent to kill Wang Lin, then Wang Lin won't mind killing him for his treasures. Although this person was at the mid-stage of soul formation, Wang Lin was confident that with the magic treasures he possessed, he had an 80% chance of winning. Wang Lin waved the restriction flag and the black fog disappeared into the surrounding walls. He placed his hand on the bracelet on his hand and silently waited for the arrival of the sixth brother. Not long after, a person came out of the wall Wang Lin was staring at. The moment the person came out, he became very cautious as he looked at Wang Lin. He carefully took a few looks before letting a laugh. "Fellow cultivator, I believe that we are the only two people remaining in this collapsed celestial beast temple." Wang Lin chuckled. He realized that this person knew he was following them. This means that there was a chance that this person was still hiding his cultivation level. Wang Lin calmly asked, "This place has already collapsed. Why did fellow cultivator come find me instead of looking for a way out?" The sixth junior brother looked around. Without moving forward, he said, "Fellow cultivator followed us the entire way. I believe you also saw the celestial beast feed." Wang Lin faintly smiled at how sixth junior brother dodged the question and asked, "What does fellow cultivator mean?" Sixth junior brother's eyes lit up, revealing a mysterious expression, and he said, "Fellow cultivator doesn't have to worry. My name is Sunlei. I'm not afraid to tell fellow cultivator this. I'm not really part of the Dalu sect. I'm only mixed in." Wang Lin remained silent. While Sunlei talked, he casually took a step forward, and just as he was about to take a few more steps, he saw a faint smile on Wang Lin's face and stopped. Wang Lin calmly said, "If fellow cultivator takes another step, I will have to act." Sunlei pondered a bit and smiled. "Fellow cultivator, I won't beat around the bush. Inside the cave with the celestial beast feed are 3 items. First is a celestial jade, second is a piece of celestial metal, and third is a celestial sword. How many did you manage to obtain earlier?" Wang Lin calmly responded, "That black line returned too quickly, so I didn't get any." Sunlei frowned. He could immediately see that Wang Lin was only at the early stage of soul formation, but his divine sense was very strange. If he didn't know a technique that specialized in detecting divine sense, he wouldn't have been able to notice that Wang Lin was following him. And even so, he was only able to notice Wang Lin when he passed by him as he was escaping from the celestial beast feeds. He recorded Wang Lin's divine sense in his mind, and only then was he barely able to find him. From his view, this person must be like him, someone who hit his own cultivation level, so unless it was absolutely necessary, he didn't want to act recklessly. Also, after this conversion and seeing how calm this person was, Sunlei was sure that Wang Lin was hiding his cultivation level. There was no way for an early-stage soul formation cultivator to be this calm when facing a mid-stage soul formation cultivator. In addition to all of this, there was another thing that was preventing him from acting. He could feel a sense of danger from the surrounding walls, and that feeling increased a lot when he took a step forward. Thinking of this, he let out a smile and said, "Fellow cultivator, that piece of celestial jade is formed from celestial energy collected for thousands of years and is considered priceless. However, compared to that, the celestial sword is much more precious. I was only able to roughly scan it at the time, so I don't know what attribute it has, but it can't be normal. In addition to those, there is also that piece of metal. My guess is that it is a type of protective treasure." Wang Lin silently nodded. The more Wang Lin acted like this, the more powerful Sunlei thought Wang Lin was. He believed that Wang Lin already knew all of this, so he quickly said, "Fellow cultivator, if it was either of us by ourselves, It would be very hard to get the treasures from the celestial beast feeds. However, if we act together, then the chances of us getting those treasures will increase by a lot. Wang Lin let out a smile and asked, "Oh? Why should I help you?" Sun Lei was startled. He was a smart person, so he immediately realized what that meant and said, "I only want the celestial sword. The other two will belong to you." "How is that?" Wang Lin shook his head. Sun Lei's expression became ugly and he said, "If fellow cultivator really wants the celestial sword, then you can take it, but the remaining two treasures will belong to me." With fellow cultivator's knowledge, you must know that the celestial sword by itself is far beyond any of the other two items alone. But if you place the metal and jade together, then their worth is very close. Wang Lin hesitated for a bit. There was some type of restriction placed on the celestial sword, so unless it gets refined for a very long time, it will be impossible to even pick it up. Wang Lin was confident that he won't be able to pick it up in a short period of time. This person clearly didn't know that about the sword. Thinking about this, he smiled and said, "I don't want the sword." Sun Lei let out a breath and smiled again. "Since that is the case, how about we go back to the cave?" Wang Lin shook his head and said, "I'm not interested in the other two objects either." "You?" Sun Lei's eyes became gloomy. If it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid that Wang Lin was hiding his cultivation level, he would have already gone up and killed Wang Lin. Why else would he listen to so much nonsense? Sun Lei took a deep breath and suppressed his anger. The more Wang Lin acted like this, the more obvious it was that Wang Lin was hiding his cultivation level. How would Wang Lin dare to speak to him like this otherwise? Wang Lin calmly looked at Sun Lei and slowly said, "Fellow cultivator son, you want me to help you retrieve the celestial sword for two items that might not even be obtainable. Do you think that I'm 3 years old?" Sun Lei took a deep breath, stared at Wang Lin and asked, "Fellow cultivator, what do you want?" He was tired of his nonsense as well. If Wang Lin wasn't willing, then he would risk it once himself. Wang Lin leisurely said, "I noticed that when fellow cultivators arrived, you guys were able to detect the rifts before they appeared." Sun Lei let out a laugh. He slapped his bag of holding and took out a piece of jade. He threw it at Wang Lin and said, "Full search tactic. It is a technique of the Dalu sect. It is not a problem to give it to you as a gift." Wang Lin took the jade and put it away after scanning it, then said, "Fellow cultivator is indeed quick on his decisions, so I won't beat around the bush anymore either. I want that gourd from your third senior brother's bag. Then I'll be willing to take this risk with you." "Not possible," Sun Lei said without any hesitation. "This gourd is the reason I mixed into the Dalu sect, so please don't make it hard for me." Wang Lin frowned. Sun Lei clenched his teeth and said, "Fellow cultivator, I can't give you this gourd, but I can give you a piece of purification wood. Although this wood's effect isn't as good as the gourd's, it has the same effect of absorbing celestial spiritual energy." With that, he painfully took out a piece of white wood and put it away after letting Wang Lin see it. Wang Lin pondered a bit. Although it was kind of worth it to kill this person for the purification gourd, he would have to use up a lot of his treasures. However, this place was the celestial realm. It was very dangerous and there was red butterfly. If he were to use up too many treasures now, then when he faces powerful cultivators or red butterfly, he will be in trouble. Thinking about this, Wang Lin nodded and said, "Fine, give me that purification wood and I'll help you once. However, whether you obtain the celestial sword or not will depend on your own luck. Even if you can't obtain the sword, the purification wood is still mine." Sun Lei nodded and said, "That is natural. However, I can't give it to you now. It won't be too late to give it to you once we are at the cave entrance. I have to be on guard as well." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He waved his sleeves and said, "Fellow cultivator, lead the way." Without a word, Sun Lei moved toward one of the uncollapsed caves. The two walked toward the cave, keeping a certain distance from each other. It was obvious that neither of them trusted each other, so they were on guard against each other. Sun Lei sneered and thought, "Even if you are hiding your cultivation level, once I get the sword and you try to steal it, I'll leave the celestial realm and use the sect treasure to kill you." This was why he asked him to come help with the treasure even though he was afraid that Wang Lin was hiding his cultivation level. Both were decisive people, so when they made the agreement, There was no hesitation as the two rapidly moved through the ruins toward the cave filled with celestial beast feeds. From their current position, they could see the cave in the distance. Not far away was the corpse of third senior brother, who had been killed by Sun Lei. Sun Lei looked at the cave from a distance and whispered, "Celestial beast feeds are food for celestial beasts. When they eat a feed, it strengthens their bodies, but they are completely useless to us. I can't believe there are still so many celestial beast feeds in this celestial beast temple. This must be due to that black celestial beast feed. Does fellow cultivator know why that black celestial beast feed exists?" Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he responded, "I believe it has something to do with that black skeleton." He remembered that the first time he saw the black line, it was moving inside the skeleton. Every time it went in and out, the skeleton would shake as if it were going to come back to life. Sun Lei placed down pieces of jade and slowly said, "Fellow cultivator's experience is indeed not ordinary. That celestial beast feed must have used some method to devour the flesh, and even the celestial soul of that skeleton back during the catastrophe that shattered the celestial realm. It hid itself inside the skeleton and then, after a long period of time, gained its own domain. That must be the reason why there are so many celestial beast feeds around. They must all be its offspring." Wang Lin remained silent. Sun Lei said in a serious tone, "Fellow cultivator, in a bit, I'll lure those celestial beast feeds out with a technique. We will kill as many as we can, and once that black line moves, we will rendezvous back where we met." Wang Lin nodded. He waved his right hand and the beast trap changed into the Thunder Toad. Thunder Toad? Sun Lei's pupils shrank as he looked at Wang Lin. He was even more sure now that Wang Lin was hiding his cultivation level. How could he capture a rare high-quality spirit beast otherwise? Wang Lin calmly said, "Let's start." Without a word, Sun Lei formed a seal and shouted. The sword behind his back immediately flew up and shot into the cave. There was a muffled sound before the sword suddenly shot back out. Following closely behind it was a ball of celestial beast feeds. Countless celestial beast feeds jumped out from the ball toward Sun Lei and Wang Lin. This scene would make anyone's scalp go numb. If they were to get caught by them, their fate would be the same as the skeletons. Sun Lei let out a roar and all of the jades he had left on the ground shattered. Rainbow-colored smoke came out of the jades and covered the beast feeds. Soon the beast feeds fell to the ground, twitching. However, there were simply too many of them, so the rainbow-colored smoke disappeared in only a few breaths of time. Without a word, Sun Lei jumped backward as his sword flew above his head and pointed at them. Sword energy shot out toward the beast feeds. Wherever it passed, large amounts of them died. Nevertheless, the tunnel was still covered in celestial beast feeds. They wanted to come and devour everything that was alive. Sun Lei kept backing up. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as the Thunder Toad's abdomen swelled up and a wave of thunder could be heard inside. Soon it opened its mouth and a ball of lightning came out, followed by roaring thunder. Suddenly, waves of celestial beast feed bodies twisted and disappeared in the lightning. Sun Lei was startled. He didn't think that the lightning would be this powerful. His dread toward Wang Lin increased. The ball of lightning contained the power of the heavens. It was able to push forward 10 meters before disappearing. However, the beast feed still ceaselessly charged at them. Wang Lin backed up and pointed at the Thunder Toad. The Thunder Toad's belly swelled up and then it spat another ball of lightning at the beast feeds. The ball of lightning roared forth toward the beast feeds. The countless beast feeds for the first time seemed to feel fear. Instead of moving forward, they seemed to want to back away from the ball of lightning. However, just at this moment, a sharp roar echoed and a black line appeared among the beast feeds. The black line moved through all the other beast feeds and charged at the ball of lightning without any fear. After the Thunder Toad spat out 2 balls of lightning, it was very tired and looked weakened. When Wang Lin saw the black beast feed, he didn't hesitate to quickly retrieve the Thunder Toad and escape. As he ran, he pointed at his brow and many wandering souls appeared. As for Sun Lei, he revealed a look of hesitation before letting out a sigh and giving up on the idea of going into the cave after the celestial beast feeds started chasing after Wang Lin. After all, it was far too dangerous and any misstep could lead to death. Thus, as Wang Lin backed off, he also backed off and quickly escaped in another direction. As for the ball of lightning, the black beast feed drilled into it, causing it to shrink. After a series of crackling and popping sounds, the ball of lightning disappeared completely. The black beast feed let out a sharp roar. One could see that its body was no longer black but violet instead, and there was some lightning surging on the surface. It condensed its body and sprang forth with speed so fast that even divine sense couldn't lock onto it most of the time. The target it chose was not Wang Lin but Sun Lei. While Wang Lin escaped, his expression suddenly changed as he took out the restriction flag and threw some pills into his mouth. A suctioning force came from the beast trap, and after a long time it finally stopped. Wang Lin got up. His face was a bit ugly. This time, the beast trap began taking spiritual energy half a day ahead. The Thunder Toad must have expended too much energy. Although this beast trap is easy to use, the cost is too high. Wang Lin pondered a bit before flying away. Along the way, the wandering souls went through the walls and returned to him one by one. Once they all returned, Wang Lin found out that none of them were missing. This made him very happy as that meant that the black beast feed chose to chase after Sun Lei this time. Not long after, Wang Lin arrived at the cave they agreed to meet in and sat down. He spread out his divine sense and found Sun Lei in a cave about 10,000 feet away. The current Sun Lei was in a very sorry state. His clothes were torn, revealing silver armor underneath. It was clearly that silver armor that allowed him to escape the black beast feed twice. His right hand was covered in blood and was missing a finger. He was currently sitting there, cultivating with a gloomy expression. When Wang Lin's divine sense scanned past the area, his expression immediately changed and revealed a hint of dread. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He jumped into the wall and activated the earth escape technique to move toward Sun Lei. Sun Lei also noticed and quickly took out several pills. He revealed a pained expression as he swallowed them and quickly sat down to cultivate. 10,000 feet wasn't a very far distance for a soul formation cultivator, but there were many caves to go through and a mysterious power that prevented teleportation. Half an hour later, Wang Lin appeared inside the cave Sun Lei was in. Sun Lei's expression immediately became ugly. He flicked his right hand as he stared at Wang Lin. Wang Lin calmly said, "Brother Sun, please continue to cultivate while I protect you." Wang Lin secretly sighed. He didn't know what pill Sun Lei had swallowed, but it allowed Sun Lei to recover back to 80% strength from a weakened state. This made Wang Lin give up his previous plan. Sun Lei was startled as he didn't expect Wang Lin to say this. Of course, he didn't believe it, but he still said, "Then I'll bother fellow cultivator for the help." Wang Lin didn't say anything and sat down cross-legged. Sun Lei remained on guard as he quickly absorbed the pill inside his body. 3 hours later, Sun Lei was fully recovered and his gaze toward Wang Lin was no longer as dark. Sun Lei stood up and said, "Fellow cultivator, my cultivation has already recovered. How about we go back?" Wang Lin nodded, stood up, and quickly flew toward one of the caves with Sun Lei right behind him. The two remained silent the entire way and soon arrived near the cave. The moment the two arrived, a large number of beast feeds charged out from the cave. Sun Lei's eyes lit up and he shouted, "Fellow cultivator, stay back. This time, I must avenge my finger." With that, he slapped his bag of holding and a black fan flew out. It was unknown what material this fan was made of, but the moment it appeared, a cold aura spread out and a layer of black ice formed on the walls. The black ice continued to expand, and in the blink of an eye arrived near Wang Lin. Wang Lin remained calm as he took out his restriction flag and shook it. Black fog surrounded Wang Lin and the icy aura moved around the black fog, but this formed a layer of buffer between Wang Lin and Sun Lei. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he silently took out the passing of time wood carving from his bag of holding. At this moment, those beast feeds charged out of the cave. It seemed like their numbers hadn't decreased at all. This time the black beast feed was in front, clearly wanted to kill. Sun Lei took a deep breath as his hand formed different seals before pointing at this brow. Suddenly, his origin soul came out and grabbed hold of the fan. His origin soul revealed an expression of pain. It was like he had just grabbed a piece of hot iron. His origin soul held the fan and swung it at the celestial beast feeds. Suddenly, a wave of black wind flew toward the celestial beast feeds. Suddenly, each of the beast feeds stopped moving and patches of black ice spread. In an instant, the area became a world of black ice. Without a word, Sun Lei's origin soul returned to his body and charged toward the cave. He smiled. Fellow cultivator, my technique has a limit and can only last 10 breaths. I'll go ahead first and then come to save you. Wang Lin remained calm as he let out a faint, mocking smile. Sun Lei's calculations were very good. He had waited this long to finally show the power of this fan. The goal was to use Wang Lin as bait so that when the celestial beast feeds were chasing Wang Lin, he could escape. Otherwise, even if he had obtained the treasure, he would still be hunted by the celestial beast feeds. After all, once he gets his hands on the treasure, the feeds will go crazy and the chase will be much more intense than the last 2 times. He had already thought about it. Once he gets the treasure, he would throw the skeleton at Wang Lin. He believed that the feeds would go for Wang Lin, who would be closer, rather than him. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He had been on guard against Sun Lei this entire time, so how could he let Sun Lei succeed? Although this black ice was indeed strange, he already had the carving of the old man in his hand. The moment the black ice sealed the area, the time domain from the wood carving was released. Going forward is part of time, going backwards is part of time, and stopping is also part of time. This is what makes the time domain so powerful. The manipulation of time as one wills it. Wang Lin had cultivated in the heaven-defying bead for a long time, and had a very good grasp on manipulating time. This was also why he was able to make the carving with the passing of time domain in it. A mysterious light spread out from the carving and met the black ice, sealing the area. Although the black ice was strong, he was not resisting it and was only trying to loosen it, so it wasn't too difficult. Borrowing a sliver of power from the time domain, Wang Lin wasn't stopped by the black ice like Sun Lei thought he would be. The moment Sun Lei shouted those words, Wang Lin walked out, and he moved at a speed even a bit faster than Sun Lei's, passing by the celestial beast feeds and appearing at the entrance of the cave. Fellow cultivator Sun Lei, you still haven't given me the purification wood, so how could you just rush in? Sun Lei was startled and his face became very ugly. However, he was a decisive person. Without a word, he slapped his bag of holding and threw out the purification wood. Wang Lin caught it and walked into the cave. Sun Lei cursed in his heart, but he knew that time was short, as half the time they had already passed, so he quickly charged in. After he entered, he saw Wang Lin pick up the piece of metal from the skeleton's chest, and without a word went to grab the celestial sword. But as soon as his hand touched the celestial sword, he let out a miserable groan as holes appeared on his hand. Wang Lin didn't even look at him and charged out of the cave. He took out the restriction flag, which emitted many dragons made of black fog. They surrounded Wang Lin and then he charged directly upward and through the walls. Sun Lei's eyes turned red as he let out an unwilling roar and reached for the sword again. This time he withstood the pain and finally grabbed hold of the celestial sword. However, just then, he suddenly let out a painful scream as his hand was pierced many times. Some of the energy from the sword pierced his hand and hit his chest, causing the silver armor he was wearing to melt. Sun Lei quickly withdrew his hand and gave up on the sword. He let out an angry roar as he charged out. He calculated that 8 breaths of time had passed and if he were to leave now, he could still made it. If he delayed any longer, it would become dangerous. But nothing in the world could be perfectly calculated. The black celestial beast feet suddenly broke free of the black ice, let out a sharp roar, and charged toward Sun Lei. Sun Lei's expression suddenly changed. His eyes were filled with disbelief. His teacher had said that the treasure would freeze an area for 10 breaths of time. It should have been 10 breaths of time, how could it be less? He didn't know that because the black celestial beast feet had absorbed the ball of lightning from the thunder toad, it gained a bit of the heaven's power, so the 10 breaths of time was lowered by 1 breath. Wang Lin's time domain caused the black ice to slow down a bit, which caused it to shorten by another breath of time. Sun Lei was shocked. There was no time to dodge. He could feel death closing in on him, and as he watched Wang Lin leave, a powerful sense of frustration filled him. A hint of madness appeared in his eyes as he slapped his forehead and a black bead flew out of it. He revealed a never-before-seen heartbreaking expression. This black bead was formed through his hundreds of years of cultivating and finally took solid form when he reached the soul formation stage. According to his sex cultivation method, this black bead was the key to forming a second origin soul. Once he loses this bead, his cultivation level will drop drastically from the mid-stage of soul formation down to the nascent soul stage. Sun Lei closed his eyes and said, "Explode!" The black bead suddenly released a black light and exploded. A ring of black light spread out. The black beast feet suddenly compressed into a ball to block this blow. But the celestial beast feet behind it, that had just broken out of the black ice wall, disappeared without a struggle. Even the surrounding caves disappeared without a trace. The power of this bead exploding reached the limit of what this fragment could hold, so it began to collapse. Countless spatial rifts appeared in the sky and they became larger and larger. On the ground, the lava exploded and shot into the air. The sky and the earth shook violently and the light of death appeared in the sky. Shortly after, large areas of sky and ground disappeared as if they were being devoured. The moment Sun Lei made the black bead explode, his body disappeared without a trace. As for Wang Lin, while he was escaping, he suddenly felt the destructive force from below, and the mysterious power that was preventing teleportation suddenly collapsed. He was shocked and was about to use teleportation before suddenly forcing himself to stop. He could feel the surrounding ground shaking and creating waves of rumbling sounds. The celestial realm fragment is collapsing? Wang Lin was glad he hadn't teleported, or else he might have teleported into a spatial rift. Wang Lin secretly cursed. He surrounded himself with the restriction flag and charged out like lightning. Without the mysterious power there, his speed had returned to normal. But the collapse of the ground was even faster. Wang Lin suddenly noticed with his divine sense that the only thing within 1,000 feet was a dark void. This dark void was like a large mouth that kept devouring everything. He was suddenly shocked. The collapse of this fragment continued, and in the blink of an eye, the void was 500 feet away. Wang Lin sucked in a breath of cold air as he quickly flew upwards. The devouring continued. 500 feet, 300 feet, 200 feet, 100 feet. Wang Lin's face was pale. He was still far away from getting above ground. The speed of the devouring was too fast. It was clear he wouldn't make it out in time. He revealed a ruthless expression in his eyes as he took out a small piece of crystal from his bag of holding. This was the condensed celestial spiritual energy. The devouring came even closer. 100 feet, 50 feet, 30 feet. Wang Lin saw that at 30 feet away, there seemed to be a mouth that had already opened. He swallowed the crystal and for the first time ever felt pain in his soul. This was a pain from having too much celestial spiritual energy in his body. At this moment, Wang Lin felt like his origin soul could collapse at any moment, but amidst this pain, a sliver of power was born. This power made him feel like he could hold up the world. The surrounding void got closer and closer. 30 feet, 20 feet, 10 feet. Wang Lin's body suddenly charged upward like a meteor. The moment the void arrived next to Wang Lin, his speed increased by countless times and he charged out from the ground. The moment he charged out from the ground, most of the ground of this fragment had already collapsed into the void. Below him was a space with only a few pillars that seemed to be holding up the sky, but even those were shrinking and slowly disappearing. The sky was filled with spatial rifts. But Wang Lin couldn't feel any of those as he was in this crazed state and charging out at a speed faster than a meteor's. There were many spatial rifts in the sky, but there were even more pieces of void forming when the spatial rifts linked together. Wang Lin's flight was like that of a struggling phoenix's flying up into the sky, but the spatial rifts suddenly connected before him, forming a large area of the void. Wang Lin suddenly charged inside. He was then surrounded by darkness and waves of cold air entered his body. Under the stimulation of the cold air, Wang Lin's mind suddenly became clear. Without a word, he controlled his body to back up. After struggling for a while, he charged out from a rift that hadn't closed yet. Using this moment of clarity, he dodged all of the spatial rifts. The moment the fragment completely collapsed, he charged out and disappeared high in the sky. He flew higher and higher until he saw the giant swirl above him. This was where he had entered the celestial realm before. Under the swirl was a platform, and on the platform were some people staring dumbfoundedly at him. His body disappeared and reappeared on the platform. He coughed out a mouthful of blood and fell down. Using the last bit of his power, he pointed at his brow and countless wandering souls came out of his forehead. Wang Lin had gathered tens of thousands wandering souls on his trip to the foreign battleground. Now that all of them had been released, they formed a black tornado around Wang Lin. This caused the expressions of everyone on the platform to change, and they immediately backed up. Wang Lin fell to the ground. He struggled to sit in a lotus position before eating 7 or 8 bottles of pills and began to cultivate. Tens of thousands of wandering souls howled as they swirled around Wang Lin. Their cold eyes would occasionally look at the people standing on the platform. These wandering souls were true wandering souls from the foreign battleground. He had spent a lot of effort to get past the law of the world to bring them out. In truth, he had collected over 100,000 wandering souls in the years he had spent inside the foreign battleground, but he was only able to bring out these 10,000. The difference between wandering souls and devils is that no matter what cultivation level the enemy is, they will jump at them even if it means they themselves could be refined. Wang Lin hadn't tested if he could kill a soul formation cultivator using all 10,000 wandering souls. After all, unless it was absolutely necessary, he didn't want to waste these wandering souls that he had spent so much effort on. But Wang Lin remembered that ancient emperor was killed by the endless onslaught of countless wandering souls. Among those wandering souls, one was different from all the others. Although it looked the same, there was a sliver of intelligence in its eyes. It was the devil Su Liqua. He felt very proud at the moment as he thought that master really did still care about him. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th devils were all dead, but he was here surrounded by all these seniors, so he felt he would be pretty safe from now on. The whirlpool of wandering souls was very big. The people on the platform were all staring at it. One of them paid extra close attention. His eyes lit up and on his forehead the symbol of an axe faded in and out. This person was the member of the giant demon clan that came from Suzaku as well. He was able to identify Wang Lin in an instant and silently pondered. One of the people on this platform was a middle-aged man who was wearing a gray coat. His eyes were dark, his nose was slightly slanted, and he looked very gloomy. He looked at where Wang Lin was and took a step toward him. The member of the giant demon clan looked at this person, but he didn't speak. He instead revealed a mocking expression. In his view, this person's cultivation level wasn't even at the soul formation stage, only late-stage nascent soul. Trying to take the life of a soul formation cultivator's life with this cultivation level was like hitting a rock with an egg. The gray-robed man carefully moved forward and got closer to the wandering souls. He began to chant and a ball of black fire formed in his hand. The moment the black flame appeared, a wave of heat spread out. He looked at Wang Lin with greed in his eyes and threw the black flame at him. Just at this moment, the wandering souls swirling around Wang Lin suddenly stopped and stared at the gray-robed man, causing him to step back. But suddenly, the wandering souls let out a sharp scream and spread out. 1/3 of the wandering souls jumped at the black fire and the remaining 2/3 jumped at the gray-robed man. This scene was very shocking. The gray-robed man's expression suddenly changed as he took out a flying sword. He pointed with his finger and the flying sword flew at the wandering souls. However, these wandering souls weren't devils, so they had a certain resistance to spells. The sword was only able to slow down the few in front while the rest quickly arrived before the gray-robed man and jumped on him. About 7 or 8 wandering souls had already entered the gray-robed man's body, causing his expression to suddenly change. He quickly bit his tongue and spat out some blood, which quickly became flames. The flame immediately surrounded him as he sat down to try and force the wandering souls out of his body. Outside of the flame that was surrounding him, a large amount of wandering souls had surrounded the flame and jumped at it. The flame was slowly weakening. It seemed like it was ready to go out. As for the fireball he had thrown out, it was being jumped on by wandering souls and being weakened. Although a few wandering souls died in the end, the fireball disappeared when it was 30 feet away from Wang Lin. The remaining wandering souls didn't attack but surrounded Wang Lin and coldly stared at the people on the platform. The gray-robed man secretly cursed and regretted that he had acted even though he knew that the people who came here were all well prepared and could be considered the elites of their respective cultivation planets. But he never could have thought that these creatures released by his heavily wounded opponent could be this scary. If the enemy's cultivation was at full power, then he would have died here today. Seeing that the flame around him was about to go out and that there were still many of these mysterious creatures, the gray-robed man clenched his teeth and waved his hand. A small cauldron then appeared in front of his head. His eyes revealed an unwilling look as he was about to use it to return to his cultivation planet. However, just as he was prepared to open the small cauldron, Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes and reached out. The small cauldron quickly left his hand and flew into Wang Lin's hand. The gray-robed man's expression suddenly changed. His face was pale and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy as he squeezed his hand like he was going to burst a bubble, and the already fading fire around the gray-robed man completely disappeared. The moment the fire disappeared, the gray-robed man let out a hysterical scream and immediately teleported toward the swirl. In his eyes, the only way for him to live was to enter the celestial realm. But it was already too late. The wandering soul's speed was even faster than his. The moment he appeared, countless wandering souls had already arrived and entered his body. His body trembled as he fell onto the platform with a miserable scream, and his body twitched for a while before dying. The flesh on his body slowly disappeared as he became a skeleton. One could see the wandering souls happily moving in and out of his body. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Under his command, the surrounding wandering souls returned to him and disappeared into his brow. At this moment, the man from the giant demon clan let out a laugh. He took a few steps forward and said, "Fellow cultivator, what happened to cause you to end up in such a state that even a nascent soul cultivator dares to become greedy towards you?" Wang Lin looked at the person and calmly said, "A celestial realm fragment collapsed." The man from the giant demon clan was startled. He looked at Wang Lin with a look of amazement and said, "Fellow cultivator, not just anyone can escape the collapse of a celestial realm fragment. I really admire you. I am Chi Hu of the giant demon clan. What is your name?" Wang Lin shook his head and said, "It was only by luck. My name is Tsang Niu." Thinking of the collapse of the fragment, he couldn't help but feel scared. If he hadn't recklessly devoured the celestial jade, he would already be dead. "Tsang Niu." Chi Hu pondered for a bit before his eyes suddenly became serious and asked, "Is fellow cultivator a member of the Tsang family that is part of the rank 5 cultivation country of Heaven Soul in the southern part of Suzaku?" Wang Lin was startled and silently shook his head. Chi Hu thought for a very long time. The only high-ranking cultivation country with a family named Tsang was the Heaven Soul country. Although he didn't admit it, Chi Hu didn't believe that Tsang Niu had obtained his cultivation on his own. He believed that Tsang Niu was a core disciple trained by one of the rank 5 cultivation countries. Otherwise, if it were someone from a rank 4 cultivation country, there was no way for him to not know. It has to be said that the giant demon clan was a rank 4 cultivation country, so they were very well aware of the geniuses of the other rank 4 cultivation countries. After thinking about this, his attitude toward Wang Lin changed a lot, but of course with his cultivation level he wouldn't show it. Chi Hu hesitated for a bit and slowly asked, "Brother Tsang, may I come closer to talk?" Wang Lin calmly looked at this person and nodded. Chi Hu quickly walked forward and arrived at the edge of the platform Wang Lin was standing on. He casually waved his hand and formed a light screen. Wang Lin's expression remained the same, but he secretly put up his guard. Chi Hu sincerely said, "Brother Tsang, since we are both from Suzaku, I hope you can help me." Wang Lin smiled. "Oh, if Brother Chi Hu has any problems you can tell me." Chi Hu clenched his teeth, took out a jade, threw it at Wang Lin. He then said, "Once fellow cultivator sees this, you will understand." Wang Lin caught the jade and scanned it with divine sense. Even Wang Lin himself couldn't help but lose control of his emotions a bit. This jade contained an image recorded by divine sense. This was a scene of a very beautiful place. It was filled with flowers, green grass, and clear water. The most eye-catching thing was a pool of water. Floating on the pool was a jade coffin. There were 3 celestial swords sticking out of the jade coffin. The sword looked very similar to the one in the black skeleton's hand. The other thing that caused Wang Lin's pupils to shrink was that if he wasn't wrong, the entire jade coffin was made of celestial jade. Meanwhile, there were several plants floating on top of the pool. They clearly weren't ordinary plants. Wang Lin pondered a bit before handing the jade back to Chi Hu. He remained silent. Chi Hu looked at Wang Lin and whispered, "Brother Tsang, this place was found by one of the geniuses of my giant demon clan many years ago when he came in here. He accidentally found this place, but it is guarded by celestial beasts and powerful restrictions. And because he wasn't powerful enough, he secretly recorded this and returned." Wang Lin pondered a bit and said, "It has been many years. It has probably been found by someone. Chihu smiled. Not possible, Brother Tsang. I promise you that this place has not been found. Sorry, but I can't say the reason right now. Wang Lin pondered for a bit and then said, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for the two of us to enter this place. Chihu smiled and said, It will be very difficult for just the two of us to enter, but I have asked another person. If the three of us go, I'm pretty confident that we will get there. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He said, I can't answer you right away. Let me think for a few days. Chihu nodded. Naturally. How about this? If Brother Tsang agrees, then meet me here in 1 month, but if you don't arrive by then, I won't wait for you. With that, he took out another piece of jade and passed it to Wang Lin. Wang Lin received the jade and noticed that it was the same as the one from the Daluo sect. It was used to teleport around the celestial realm. However, unlike the one from the Daluo sect, there was only one fragment that was lit up. When you enter the vortex, activate this jade and it will bring you to the right fragment. Brother Tsang, I'll wait for you there. With that, Chihu clasped his hands and walked into the vortex. Wang Lin put the jade away and then sat down cross-legged. He took out the restriction flag and surrounded himself with it. His origin soul flew out and revealed a painful expression. A rice grain-sized celestial jade was forced out of his origin soul. After this jade was forced out of his origin soul weakened and looked like it was ready to collapse at any time as it slowly returned to his body. After a long time, Wang Lin opened his eyes, revealing a tired expression. He looked at the celestial jade before putting it back into his bag of holding. With Wang Lin's cultivation level, he couldn't even absorb celestial spiritual energy, much less celestial jade. Only late-stage soul formation cultivators could try to absorb it in an attempt to break through to the soul transformation stage. It can be said that there are so few soul transformation cultivators because there aren't many people that can enter the celestial realm to get enough celestial spiritual energy. In certain sects, ones with tens of thousands of years of history, they have a stock of celestial jades saved up, but only the elite and elders of these sects are able to use them. The lack of soul transformation cultivators is the reason why there are even fewer ascendant cultivators. If someone tries to absorb celestial spiritual energy before they reach the late stage of soul formation, it is no longer a treasure, but a poison. Wang Lin let out a bitter smile. His origin soul was heavily damaged, but luckily, he had wandering souls. After devouring some, he was able to recover a bit. He slapped his bag of holding and a piece of white jade appeared in his hand. He scanned it with his divine sense and found that the so-called celestial jade was pretty similar to a spirit stone. However, spirit stones release spiritual energy, while celestial jades release celestial spiritual energy. Wang Lin knew that when cultivating after the soul transformation stage, aside from increasing one's own understanding of their Tao, the spiritual energy from the world was no longer viable to cultivate with. The more of this, the better. Wang Lin knew how valuable the celestial spiritual energy was. If this piece of jade were to be placed in Suzaku, it would cause a bloodbath. Even Suzaku would come out to take it. After taking one look, Wang Lin put the jade away. Although his origin soul had taken some damage on this trip, the treasures he had obtained made it completely worth it. Wang Lin took a deep breath before taking out another object. This was the piece of metal from the chest of the skeleton. Sunlei said that this piece of metal was a defensive type of celestial treasure, but when Wang Lin grabbed hold of it, he knew that this object was not a celestial treasure at all. He was too busy to take a closer look back then, but now he spread out his divine sense and examined it closely. The moment his divine sense entered the piece of metal, his mind suddenly became dizzy as information entered his head. After a long time, Wang Lin revealed a look of amazement and his eyes lit up. If the information stored in this piece of metal was true, then this piece of metal was the most valuable out of those 3 items. This piece of metal was like a piece of jade. It contained the method for refining a god-slaying chariot. According to the description of the piece of metal, that skeleton was once known as Heavenly Treasure Celestial. After he entered the celestial realm, he spent all of his time on refining treasures without caring about cultivation at all. In truth, the reason he even reached the stage to be able to come to the celestial realm was so that he could live longer in order to finish his lifelong dream of creating the most powerful treasure in existence. Unfortunately, This dream ended with the destruction of the celestial realm, and the God-Slayer chariot never reached the stage he wanted it to and was sealed inside his cave. Before the celestial realm was destroyed, he had gone out to find some materials to continue working on the God-slaying chariot, but sadly, he died before making it back. He didn't want his life's work to go to waste, so before he died, he left the information in this piece of metal for the future generations to see. Inside the piece of metal, this person left a lot of information about the God-slaying chariot he never finished, including detailed production methods. He also left the location of his cave and urged whoever found it to go find the chariot and continue his research if possible. Wang Lin took a deep breath. The production method of this chariot was very complicated. A lot of the materials required had already gone extinct, so it was impossible to produce another one. However, according to the description, Wang Lin could tell that there were some of these God-slaying chariots in his cave, making Wang Lin very excited. After pondering a little, he stood up, put away the restriction flag, and walked toward the vortex. The people on the platform saw Wang Lin and backed away. Most of these people were at the nascent soul stage, so they didn't go into the vortex. They could only hope to steal from someone who was injured after leaving the celestial realm. Wang Lin didn't even look at them as he jumped into the vortex. Inside the vortex, Wang Lin's body continued to sink. During this time, Wang Lin kept his eyes open. According to the piece of metal, the cave was in the western side of the celestial realm. However, the current celestial realm was now in fragments, so whether or not the cave still existed or if it had already been found by someone was not certain. Wang Lin's body continued to descend until he landed on a fragment in the eastern side. He looked around before quickly flying up and returning to the platform again. Then he once again entered the vortex. He did this many times before finally landing on a fragment on the western side. According to Heaven Treasure Celestial's description, his cave was inside a tiger-shaped mountain. Wang Lin looked around but didn't see any tiger-shaped mountains. He pondered for a bit. Although finding it would be hard, he didn't give up and kept looking around. During this time he met two other cultivators, but they just looked at each other before passing by. Many days later, Wang Lin still hadn't found anything, so he returned to the platform and entered the vortex again. The people on the platform had seen Wang Lin return and enter the vortex many times, but none of them knew what Wang Lin was doing, nor did they dare to ask. On this day, Wang Lin landed again and found that he was on the eastern side of the celestial realm. He let out a sigh. If this were to continue, how many years would it take before he could search all of the fragments on the western side? This heavenly treasure celestial's cave was simply too hard to find. Just as he was about to fly up again, he suddenly felt a fluctuation of spells from the distance. He then saw two figures quickly coming toward his direction. The person in front had black clouds around him while the person behind him was a young man wearing a white robe with a cold smile on his face. At this moment, the person in front noticed Wang Lin. He quickly changed directions and shouted, "Fellow cultivator, save me!" That white-robed cultivator's face became gloomy as he put away the fan and moved his hand. Suddenly, a giant hand appeared and reached for the person in front. That person's expression suddenly changed. It was as if he couldn't dodge it and was caught. However, his body suddenly turned into countless small insects and he escaped the hand. That person appeared 100 feet before Wang Lin. Upon closer inspection, Wang Lin recognized this person as the young man with eyes filled with bloodlust from Suzaku. At this moment his face was gloomy. After he appeared, he didn't keep running but turned around to look at the white-clothed young man that was chasing after him. The white-robed young man looked at Wang Lin and clasped his hands. "Fellow cultivator, this has nothing to do with you. Please leave," he said. The young man quickly said, "Fellow cultivator, this person tried to steal my celestial jade. If you help me, we can split it." The white-robed young man's eyes narrowed as he said, "What nonsense! It was you who stole from me." Wang Lin frowned. He wasn't willing to get involved in this mess. Without a word, he backed up and flew away. The young man's expression suddenly changed as he chased after Wang Lin and shouted, "Fellow cultivator, consider that we are from the same planet and help me this once." Wang Lin's expression darkened as he turned around and shouted, "Scram! Don't try to drag me into this matter between you two. If you continue to follow me, then don't blame me for being ruthless." The young man revealed an evil expression as he took out a celestial jade. and threw it at Wang Lin before running away. Since you aren't willing to help, then I might as well bring the trouble to you. I don't want this celestial jade anymore. The white-robed young man's eyes lit up as he shifted his gaze from the escaping young man to Wang Lin and quickly flew over to him. Wang Lin didn't even look at the celestial jade. He waved his right hand and sent the jade to the white-robed young man. The white-robed young man was startled and then clasped his hands. Many thanks. I'm Kueishui Sex Sima Yun. You are? Zhang Niu. After Wang Lin finished speaking, he flew away. He decided to search this place and then try the vortex a few more times. If he still couldn't find it, then he could only give up. The white-robed young man shouted, "Fellow cultivator Tsung, I have already searched here for a few days and there is no more celestial spiritual energy left. I don't know if you have any transfer array locations of other fragments, but we can exchange them." Wang Lin stopped moving, turned around, and looked at the white-robed young man. This young man was at the early stage of soul formation, but the technique he displayed earlier was very powerful. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before slapping his bag of holding and taking out the jade from the Dalu sect. He put some spiritual energy inside it, and a map of the celestial realm appeared. Although most of it was dark, around 30 fragments were lit up. The white-robed young man carefully looked at the map before taking out a jade himself. He sent spiritual power into it and a similar map with more than 20 lit-up fragments appeared. Wang Lin took one look at it and became excited because the white-robed young man had 5 fragments that were on the western side. The white-robed young man said, "Fellow cultivator Tsing, my map has 21 locations, and 8 of them overlap with yours. How about we do a trade after you wipe off a few?" Without a word, Wang Lin took out a blank jade and made a copy. Then he wiped off a few locations to match the amount the white-robed young man had before looking at him. The white-robed young man was also holding an empty jade and making a copy. Once he finished, both threw their jades at each other. "Fellow cultivator Tsung, if you have the chance to come to my shattered silver planet, then I'll certainly welcome you." Wang Lin nodded. "Okay. I will be leaving. Since that little bastard dared to steal my stuff, I'm not going to let him get away." After the white-robed young man finished speaking, he disappeared from that spot. Wang Lin pondered a bit before opening the jade he had just received and pointed at one of the fragments on the western side. Suddenly, a formation appeared and Wang Lin disappeared into it. On the western side of the celestial realm, there was a fragment with a tiger-shaped mountain, but at this moment the mountain was split in half. Wang Lin floated in the air as he calmly looked at this mountain. He finally found this tiger-shaped mountain on the third fragment that he had tried from the white-robed young man's transfer arrays. Although it was not exactly the same as described in the metal, the general appearance was there. Wang Lin's body moved and he flew toward the mountain. At the foot of the mountain, Wang Lin found the heavenly treasure celestial's cave. After seeing at the cave, Wang Lin's face darkened. The walls of the cave had already been broken. There were also marks of techniques landing on the cave. Clearly, it had been destroyed many years ago. Wang Lin slowly flew into the cave. The cave wasn't very large and it looked completely empty. Wang Lin let out a bitter smile. He had spent so much time looking for this cave, but was still a step too late. But just at this moment, Wang Lin's eyes suddenly lit up. This cave had 9 rooms and all of them were empty, but at this moment, Wang Lin's eyes were locked onto the largest room as he wore a thoughtful expression. Inside the piece of metal, it was clearly stated how to open the doors to these rooms and that there were a total of 10 rooms. The location of the god-slaying chariot was the 10th room. There are only 9 stone rooms. Where is the 10th? Wang Lin frowned. He had already spread out his divine sense and found nothing else. Wang Lin took a few steps forward and touched the wall. The wall felt cold, but there was nothing unusual about it. He pondered a bit before slapping his bag of holding. The piece of metal appeared in his hand. The moment the metal appeared, it suddenly released a bright light and began to heat up. Wang Lin suddenly felt excited. He backed up and threw the piece of metal into the air. Suddenly, the metal started becoming brighter and brighter until it began to melt. However, there was no liquid dripping down. Instead, it turned into a cloud of smoke. Inside this mushroom-shaped smoke, a figure slowly formed. This person was very handsome. His hair moved, but there was no wind. There was a very majestic feel about him. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he took a few steps back and looked onward with a cold gaze. After the figure appeared, his hand formed a seal, creating a golden light that covered the entire cave. Suddenly, rumbling sounds could be heard as the entire cave began to sink. The ground under Wang Lin's feet shook, but he remained calm as he carefully observed his surroundings. After a long time, the shaking stopped. On one of the walls, a glowing purple door appeared. The figure formed strange seals and pointed at the purple door before disappearing. Even the piece of metal had completely disappeared. Wang Lin took a deep breath and turned to stare at the purple door. Including this door, there were now a total of 10 rooms in this cave. Wang Lin secretly thought, that figure must have been the heavenly treasure celestial. He really is a master of refining treasures. Even if people find this cave, very few would be able to find the room with the real treasure inside. His eyes lit up as he walked up to the purple door. After pondering for a bit, he quickly formed the seal shown by the figure and pressed on the door. The door immediately moved and slowly opened up. Wang Lin's divine sense spread out and his eyes immediately lit up. This 10th room wasn't very large. Aside from scattered tools on the side, the most eye-catching things were the 3 monstrous objects in the center. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were monstrous objects, because these objects seemed to be covered in something that resembled beast skin, and poking out of them were ferocious thorns with a thorn the size of a person in the center. This was only the upper parts of the objects. The bottoms were like very large war chariots used by mortals with 4 large wheels. These chariots were about 10 feet wide. With the 3 of them in the center, they took up almost all of the space in the room. When Wang Lin walked into the room, 3 beast souls appeared above their respective chariots. The beasts looked even more ferocious than their chariots and immediately began to roar at Wang Lin. These souls contained the power to cause one's soul to tremble. Their roars were also filled with penetrating powers, causing the entire cave to shake. One of the beasts had a triangular head and the body of an ox. It looked very vicious with a tail behind it. There was some resemblance of eyes, a nose, and a mouth on the tail. It wouldn't be wrong to say it had 2 heads. After seeing this beast, Wang Lin immediately searched through 2C's memories, but he was unable to find anything. However, there were many types of beasts in the universe, so it was not unusual to encounter beasts 2C didn't know of. The 3 beast souls looked very similar. The only difference between them was their size. The one in the center looked very large while the 2 on the sides looked smaller. After the 3 beast souls appeared, their red eyes locked onto Wang Lin with an unfriendly gaze. They roared as they charged forward and tried to eat Wang Lin. Wang Lin's eyes remained calm as he took a step back. But the moment the 3 beast souls jumped forward, countless chains as thick as arms appeared on them. These chains even went through the beast souls and began to glow when they came within 3 feet of Wang Lin. The 3 beast souls suddenly let out painful roars as their bodies were forcibly dragged back by the chains and were locked onto the chariots. Only the larger beast soul in the center had managed to charge out another few feet forward before being painfully dragged back. But the 3 beast souls were very unwilling to give up and began to struggle. The cave began to tremble as if it could collapse at any time. Wang Lin calmed himself. Although he didn't know the names of these beast souls, he had learned how to control them from the piece of metal. He also knew that each of these chariots contained a beast soul, and that the chains prevented them from going more than 3 feet from the chariot. Looking at the 3 beast souls struggling, Wang Lin quickly formed seals according to information from the piece of metal. As he finished each seal, they quickly turned into black rings. After the 3 beast souls saw the rings, they began to struggle even more. Gradually, Wang Lin's movements became even faster and more rings appeared. Soon, more than 100 rings filled the room. When he pointed, all of them flew toward one of the chariots. Seal! All of the rings fell down like rain and wrapped around the chariot. The beast soul on the chariot let out a roar and revealed a frustrated expression. The rings wrapped around the beast one at a time. Then the chariot floated into the air. As it floated up, the size of the chariot changed. It slowly shrank until it was only the size of his palm and landed in his hand. Wang Lin took a look at it before placing it in his bag of holding. If he wanted to use these chariots, then he must be able to subdue the beast souls. However, he was currently not powerful enough to do that, so he could only use the method on the piece of metal and put the beast souls in a sleeping state. In truth, the heavenly treasure celestial would never have thought that a soul formation cultivator would get their hands on the god-slaying chariots. He believed that one had to be at least at the soul transformation stage to barely control them. After putting away the chariot, he turned to the one on the left and used the same method to seal the beast's soul that was on it. Finally, there was only one chariot left. This one had the smallest beast's soul, but it was still not something Wang Lin could control right now. After this beast's soul saw its two friends sealed away, he continued to roar. If it was the heavenly treasure celestial from back then, he would still obey, but before this tiny cultivator that he could kill with one slap if he was at his full power, his pride refused to let himself yield. Wang Lin stared at this beast. He struggled on deciding if he should risk it or not. If he wins, then he could temporarily control this beast, but if he loses, he will be in danger. After pondering a little, he touched the beast trap on his hand. According to logic, this beast trap should work, but this beast's soul must have been a celestial beast when it was alive. One problem was whether or not this beast trap would even work. The other was that even if it did work, would he be able to withstand the amount of spiritual energy that would be absorbed? He pondered a bit before giving up on the idea of taking the risk and sealed this chariot too. Too bad I don't know how much power these god-slaying chariots really have, but seeing how confident that heavenly treasure celestial is, I believe they won't be too bad. Also, the beast's souls sealed in these chariots are very powerful, so their power shouldn't disappoint me. Sadly, I'm too weak to use them right now. Wang Lin let out a sigh before moving his gaze to the treasure refining materials on the side. He quickly put everything inside his bag of holding and then carefully examined them. After that, he walked to the purple door and used the same method as before to raise the cave and walked out. Wang Lin thought, these god-slaying chariots are really amazing. They don't require any spirit stones to activate and solely use the power of the beast's soul trapped inside to activate. As a result, it can save a lot of spirit stones, but if these chariots required spirit stones to active then, they would probably require celestial jades. I just don't know if there is any effect on the beast's soul when activating the chariot. Under normal circumstance, there is no endless energy source in the world. The beast's soul is likely to be damaged after a certain amount of uses, and could even disappear completely after many uses. Unfortunately, the heavenly treasure celestial didn't leave any information on that matter. Wang Lin looked at the sky and went into deep thought. I believe that the heavenly treasure celestial didn't have enough time before his death to leave all of the information inside the metal, so he only left the important things. This means that I have to personally do some research to understand more about these god-slaying chariots. Wang Lin thought for a while longer before touching his bag of holding and letting out a faint smile. The harvest for this trip to the celestial realm has been very good, but the danger has also been great. If anything had gone wrong during the collapse of that fragment, I would most likely be dead right now. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. That phrase is indeed true. Therefore, I will have to carefully consider Chi-Hu's invitation. Wang Lin floated in the air as he carefully thought about it. Many techniques were flying through the air on a fragment in the southern part of the celestial realm. There were currently 3 people fighting over a celestial jade. 10,000 kilometers away from the 3 of them, a middle-aged man stood in a grassy field while drinking wine from a gourd. He shook his head and said, "Ting Er, don't worry. I'll find you more celestial jades, so that your body will remain the same for 1,000 years. This middle-aged man was from Suzaku like Wang Lin. He walked on the plain while drinking. After a long time he stopped. Looking down on the ground, his face was filled with old memories as he said, "Ting Er, do you still remember this place? Back then this was where I met you, but now there is no one left." He let out a sigh as his right foot gently tapped the ground. In an instant, his body disappeared. He quickly descended into the ground until he arrived at a very large cave. Inside the cave was a tower that was surrounded by green gas. The middle-aged man took one step and walked through the green gas and into the tower. This tower had 3 layers. The inside was very simple and looked very similar to someone's home, but there was a certain sense of elegance. As this person entered the tower, his gaze became soft. He walked through the room and touched all of the furniture before sitting down and muttering, "Ting Er, this was where I met you." His eyes revealed a deep sense of love as he gently took out a pagoda from his bag of holding. He rubbed the pagoda and it emitted a white light. After the white light disappeared, the body of a woman in white appeared in his arms. He let out a smile and said, "Look, Ting-er, we are home." This woman was very beautiful. She had an aura about her that made her seem fairy-like. Her skin was white, but there was also a hint of red. If someone were told that she was still alive, they would believe it. For some reason, the moment she appeared, she seemed to fit right into the surroundings. It was as if this place belonged to her. The middle-aged man gently touched the dead woman's face. The affection in his eyes deepened as he muttered, "When I first laid my eyes on you, I knew you were going to be my wife. I can't be wrong. Ting-er, do you like this name? This is the name I picked for you." He muttered as he gently kissed the woman's forehead, revealing a fulfilled look. "For you, I gave up the right to become the sect head. For you, I betrayed my teacher. I don't regret it, I don't regret it at all. Who cares if they say I'm crazy? I'm not crazy." After caressing the woman's face for a long time, he stood up. "Ting-er, let us go upstairs. There is a dresser for you upstairs. How about you let your husband put makeup on for you?" The man carried the woman upstairs. At the side of the dresser, the man placed the woman down. As he picked up an eyebrow pencil, his eyes swelled up with emotions. He muttered, "Ting-er, are you happy? I am very happy. Why are you not talking? Please talk. Are you not happy? Please speak. Please speak now. Why won't you speak?" The middle-aged man's voice became louder and louder. He threw the pencil aside as he shook the woman and his voice became louder and louder. After a long time, the man suddenly became shocked. He quickly hugged the woman and muttered, "I'm sorry, Ting-er. Please don't blame me. I know I was wrong. I'll never yell at you again. No one can take you away from me, no one. If anyone dares to, I'll kill them. Kill. Kill. Kill." He took a deep breath, then kissed the woman's face a few times before smiling. "Ting-er, look. This tower was originally going to collapse, but I was able to maintain its condition because this is your our home. You must be tired. Rest a bit." The middle-aged man carried the woman to the bed. He sat on the side of the bed and looked at the woman with a gentle gaze. "Ting-er, when I first saw you, you were laying there like this. Nothing has changed since then. Ting-er, do you still remember? When I first came to the celestial realm, I came to find celestial spiritual energy, but I found you here. When I first saw you, I knew you were my wife, so I stayed here with you for a very long time." As he spoke, his hand reached out to the woman's hand. As he rubbed her hand, he said, "You are so perfect, perfect. You are mine. No one can steal you from me. Ting-er, tell me you love me too, right? Compared to celestial spiritual energy, you are the real treasure." The middle-aged man smiled as he lied down beside the woman and muttered, "Okay, Ting-er, let us rest for the night. Tomorrow your husband will go find more celestial jades for you. Sleep. Don't be scared, I am here." Wang Lin flew in the air with a determined look on his face. The 1-month time limit was almost up and he had made up his mind to go to the place Chi-Hu mentioned. Ignoring the 3 celestial swords, just that large coffin made of celestial jade was enough temptation. He believed that with a large amount of celestial jades, his push for the soul transformation stage will be a lot easier. Reaching the soul transformation stage had very different meaning for Wang Lin. Once he reaches the soul transformation stage, Situ Nan will be able to awaken. However, Wang Lin was only at early stage of soul formation and was very far from the late stage. It was unknown when he will reach the late stage, but he wasn't anxious at all. He knew that he couldn't be anxious for cultivation. Everything that will come will come. In addition to all of that, some of the celestial herbs were also very tempting for Wang Lin. If he were to bring those back to Li Muwen, she would be able to make some top-quality pills. This would allow her cultivation level to increase even more. Unless a pill had a very powerful effect, Wang Lin wouldn't casually take it. After all, at his stage, it was mainly about his own comprehension. Pills weren't as important. But pills made from herbs from the celestial realm would be very different. After he made a decision, his body kept rising into the sky toward the vortex. He only needed to use the jade when entering the vortex to go to the meeting place. At this moment, at a fragment in the central part of the celestial realm, stood Chi-Hu. Before him was a transfer array. Chi-Hu's eyes were calm. He had waited here for 7 days. During those 7 days, there were some rascals that came by, but they had all been killed by him. He was waiting for 2 people. Chi-hu was 70% confident that they would be able to return with great rewards if those 2 came. He believed that those 2 would be tempted after seeing the jade coffin. After all, this temptation was something hard for anyone to resist. As a result, Chi-hu wasn't in a hurry. Those 2 people were chosen by him after careful selection. Not only was the first person very famous, but they also had connections with his giant demon clan. As for the second person, Songnyo, Chi-hu wasn't able to see through him. Although he was only at the early stage of soul formation, Chi-hu still felt a sense of danger from him. After thinking for a long time, he decided to invite Songnyo. After all, the stronger they were, the higher chance they had to succeed. As for whether or not the other 2 would try to kill him for the treasures, Chi-hu believed that he would able to make it out safely with his power. Time slowly passed. On this day, the formation before him suddenly lit up and slowly brightened up the area. This dazzling light had no effect on Chi-hu. He calmly turned to the formation and secretly thought, "They came," but he didn't know which one it was. Once the light from the formation reached a certain degree, it suddenly dimmed. Shortly after, an exquisite figure appeared. This woman looked very beautiful, but the coldness on her face was very daunting. Cold air enveloped the area and snow even began to fall around her. This scene looked very shocking. Chi-hu's eyes lit up and he thought, "It's her." He let out a laugh and clasped his hands. "Fellow cultivator Red Butterfly, I have waited for you for a long time." This woman was Xueyu's genius Red Butterfly. She coldly looked at Chi-hu as she walked out of the formation and said, "If what you said is false, I won't let this end so easily." Chi-hu revealed a confident look and smiled. "Fellow cultivator Red Butterfly can relax. Since you came, I can tell you. This jade was personally made by my giant demon clan's ancestor, Shizu. He should have no reason to lie." Shizu. Red Butterfly's face relaxed a bit. This Shizu was a senior of her master and they had some connection. After all, there were only 2 clans on Suzaku that weren't native to the planet: the giant demon clan and Xueyu. Naturally, the 2 clans kept in touch with each other. It could be said that the giant demon clan was Xueyu's ally. Since it was personally recorded by Shizu himself, then I'll believe you and go with you on this trip. I don't want any treasures other than that celestial jade coffin. It must be mine. Red Butterfly's voice was very determined. Chi-hu frowned and secretly thought that this Red Butterfly was too overbearing. Although he was interested in the celestial jade coffin as well, those 3 celestial swords were the things he had to get. If it was just 2 of them, it would be fine. But then there wouldn't be anything left for Songnyo if the loot were split between the 2 of them. Chi-hu pondered for a bit before slowly saying, "Fellow cultivator Red Butterfly, this matter is not so easily decided. After all, besides the 2 of us, there is one more that will join us." Red Butterfly calmly asked, "Oh? Who is it?" Chi-hu said, "Songnyo. Just like you and I, he also comes from planet Suzaku." "From planet Suzuka?" Red Butterfly was startled as she recalled the other 4. Just at this moment, the formation before the 2 suddenly lit up. When the formation reached its peak brightness, a figure appeared. "It's him." Red Butterfly's eyes lit up. Without a word, her hand moved like lightning and she sent a white handprint toward the formation. Bang bang bang. The handprint shot through the air like lightning. The figure that came out from the formation was Wang Lin. The moment he came out, he felt danger, so he quickly stomped the ground to shatter the formation and surrounded himself with a cloud of green smoke as he backed up. He waved his right hand and the beast trap flew out. With a roar, a ball of lightning appeared and shot toward the handprint. At the same time, Wang Lin waved his hand and the restriction flag appeared in his grasp. Restriction gas filled the area 10 meters around Wang Lin as his eyes locked onto Red Butterfly. "Go!" Under Wang Lin's order, the restriction gas turned into dragons that fearlessly charged forward with their ferocious mouths open. Red Butterfly's face became even colder as she tapped the ground with her foot and flew backwards. At the same time, she waved her right hand and an ice sculpture appeared. This sculpture looked the same as the half-human half-snake sculpture from before. Only this one's eyes were closed. The moment the ice sculpture appeared, a blue light shot out from the closed eyes. Bang! The powerful impact caused by the collision of the handprint and the ball of lighting created a wave of air, half a person tall, that pushed outwards. The blue light hit the ball of lightning, creating a series of crackling sounds as ice appeared on the ball of lightning. The ice began to spread at an unimaginable speed. In the blink of an eye, a frozen ball of lightning appeared in the air. The outside was blue and the inside was dark purple with lightning moving through it. It looked very beautiful. The blue light didn't stop and continued to move forward. The thunder toad let out a miserable groan as it attempted to spit out a second ball of lightning, but it was touched by the blue light and frozen in place before it could. Its stomach was bloated, but the ball of lightning was trapped inside. Even the ferocious dragons formed by the restriction gas were stopped by the blue light and showed signs of being frozen. This time, Red Butterfly had used one of her most powerful treasures. Her goal was to kill Wang Lin in one strike. When Wang Lin saw that his attack was stopped, he immediately back up again and pointed at his brow. One by one, wandering souls came out and surrounded Wang Lin as they howled. Wang Lin jumped into the air. At this moment he looked like a demon god descending. His eyes were filled with a strange light. Devour! With one word, the wandering souls became vicious and fearlessly charged toward Red Butterfly. The blue light didn't have much effect on the wandering souls. After all, wandering souls were already dead, and they possessed some natural resistance to spells. Chihu finally reacted. He frowned and shouted, "Stop!" Red Butterfly's expression changed. She sneered as she quickly backed up. The wandering souls surged forward like a tidal wave, chasing closely behind her. Wang Lin unleashed his killing intent as he waved his restriction flag, and a dozen more dragons were formed. They fused into one large lance and stabbed toward Red Butterfly. This lance was like a phantom as it moved like lightning behind the wandering souls. Red Butterfly backed up again. Her hand rubbed the ice sculpture, causing it to suddenly grow to the size of a person before her. She let out a roar and the eyes of the sculpture opened as if it were alive. The sculpture then shot out rays of blue light. Under this blue light, the wandering souls all let out miserable screams. Some of the wandering souls disappeared completely. The fearless wandering souls felt a sense of fear and didn't dare to move forward. However, the lance formed by the restriction gas broke through the blue light and charged forward. Wang Lin's body moved and charged forward. He followed closely behind the lance and shouted, "Red Butterfly, your parents didn't have anyone to send them off. You are unfilial." When the wandering souls saw that Wang Lin had personally charged forward, they didn't dare to not follow. They flew behind Wang Lin like the tails of a black peacock, adding to his presence. For one selfish desire, you killed the four-sect alliance. You are heartless. The black lance broke through the waves of blue light like an unstoppable force, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Cracks even appeared in the space around them. The spreading of the cracks ripped the surrounding mountains to pieces. You tried to kill me without any reason. That is unjust. The frozen restriction gas broke free from the ice and joined the lance, making it even more powerful. At the same time, under Wang Lin's control, more and more restriction gas came out of the restriction flag to join the lance as it broke through the blue light, causing its color to become even darker and more fierce. Your teacher is still alive, yet you sold yourself to Suzaku. You are unfaithful. This lance was the most powerful attack the restriction flag could use after reaching the first stage of completion. It used all of its restrictions. Wang Lin descended from the sky with wandering souls surrounding him. This scene made it look like the sky was collapsing. The ground began to crack thanks to the expanding cracks in space. This gave the lance power from the earth. The combined power of the sky collapsing and ground cracking would even seriously injure a mid-stage soul formation cultivator. You are unfilial, unjust, and unfaithful. What kind of Tao are you cultivating? Your Tao heart isn't stable. I want to see how your cultivation level will rise in the future. Even Chi, whose body involuntarily took a few steps back and his eyes were filled with shock. He didn't expect Sung Nyo to have such a terrifying move. The unity of a person and their magic treasure. Chi, who was shocked. His eyes lit up, but he quickly suppressed his urge to fight. This person must be a genius of the Tsang family. If it were me, unless I used the treasure the family gave me, it would be difficult to escape this calamity. However, this red butterfly is at the late stage of soul formation. This Tsung Nyo really is something. He knows that he must destroy Red Butterfly's Dao heart first. This Zhang is indeed not simple. Red Butterfly was too young after all. Compared to an old monster like Wang Lin, who has lived for over 400 years and has seen through human nature, her mental strength was still much lower than Wang Lin's. Wang Lin's words each landed on Red Butterfly's heart. A flash of anger appeared on her face as she continued to back away. Wang Lin continued to move forward while Red Butterfly kept backing up. Wang Lin knew that Red Butterfly's battle experience wasn't as good as his, so he took this chance to continue chasing and not give her any breaks. Killing intent filled Red Butterfly's eyes. As the genius of Xueyu from the moment she was born, she had never had such a disgraceful moment. In the past, as long as she used the ice sculpture, even late-stage soul formation cultivators at her level would run away in panic. Also, even Suzaka paid a lot of attention to her, so it was hard for her to not have some pride. Wang Lin's lance caused her to feel shock. This lance wasn't all that powerful, but there was a mysterious energy within it. This energy almost felt like a sliver of divine retribution lightning, but she was still a late-stage soul formation cultivator. At this moment, her eyes lit up and her hand formed seals. She suddenly pointed at her brow and coughed out a mouthful of blood. A ray of red light suddenly appeared in the blood. The moment the red light appeared, it turned into a beautiful rose. The moment the flower appeared, the ice sculpture melted into a pool of water and moved below the rose. It was as if it had become nutrients for the rose, making it even more beautiful. The lance charged forth and collided with the rose. One of the rose petals fell off, and at the same time, Wang Lin's expression changed because the lance collapsed. Red Butterfly's face burned a shade of unnatural red for a moment, but it quickly disappeared. Wang Lin let out a sigh. Even this powerful of a move wasn't able to kill this woman. Late-stage soul formation cultivators were indeed powerful. As his body backed up, the ruthless domain surrounded his body. Red Butterfly stared at Wang Lin, who was backing up. She gnashed her teeth and said, "You are the first person to force me to use my life treasure. You can now die in peace." As she said that, she reached out with her hand and plucked one flower petal. Chi-Hu let out a roar as he flew into the air. "Stop! Fellow cultivator Red Butterfly and Brother Tsang, both of you were invited here by me. If you both continue, then don't blame me for ruthless." Wang Lin took a deep breath as he focused all his attention on resisting the invasion of the ruthless domain and coldly said, "Fellow cultivator Chi-Hu, I'm not the one that started all this." Red Butterfly's face was cold as she looked at Chi-Hu and said, "This has nothing to do with you. Stand down." Chi-Hu's expression changed. He stared at Red Butterfly and let out a loud laugh. "Fellow cultivator Red Butterfly, what if I want to get involved?" Red Butterfly remained silent as she threw out the flower petal, and it slowly flew toward Wang Lin. At this moment, the ground suddenly trembled and cracks appeared in the sky. The power of this flower petal had clearly reached the limit of this celestial realm fragment. Chi-Hu shouted, "Red Butterfly!" Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he hit his bag of holding, and immediately another restriction flag appeared. The restriction flag left his hand and flew into the air. Divine retribution. Unless absolutely necessary, Wang Lin really didn't want to attract divine retribution lightning. With this, the fragment will collapse for sure, and Wang Lin didn't know if he would be lucky enough to escape it this time. The restriction flag flew into the sky and turned into a cloud of black fog that surrounded everything within 10 kilometers. Suddenly, thunderous roars filled their surroundings. Wang Lin took a deep breath as he moved his hands and completed a restriction in his hand. He only needed to throw it into the air to complete the restriction flag, thus causing divine retribution lightning to descend. Red Butterfly's expression changed. She looked at the restriction in Wang Lin's hand and then at the black object in the sky. She felt a powerful sense of danger, something she had never felt before. She had a feeling that if she allowed him to place that restriction, there would be disaster today. At this moment, Chi-Hu's face became pale as he looked up at the black object while floating in the sky. He secretly sighed and thought, that Sangyo still didn't use his full power. It seems like that black object is his real life-saving treasure. Chi-Hu shouted, "Fellow cultivator Red Butterfly, both of you are my guests. If you insist on continuing to attack, then that means you're hostile towards me. I will naturally stand with Brother Tsang and fight back." Also, if I live to make it back, I'll definitely report this to Shizu. With that, an illusion appeared behind Chihu. The illusion was that of a 100 feet tall giant that stared at Red Butterfly with cold green eyes. Red Butterfly couldn't help but become indecisive. She secretly thought that Song Nyo's technique was not simple. The illusion behind Chihu had already solidified. If she were to continue to fight, then this fragment would surely collapse. She hesitated for a bit before pointing to the air and commanding the flower petal to stop. Okay, Chihu. For you, I won't kill this person today, but that jade coffin must be mine. Chihu frowned. Just as he was about to speak, Wang Lin began to laugh loudly. Red Butterfly, do you really think I can't kill you? Wang Lin let out a faint smile as he raised the restriction in his hand high up in the air and said, I only need to send out this technique in my hand and this fragment will collapse. Do you believe me, Red Butterfly? Red Butterfly's face immediately became ugly. Chihu clasped his hands and said, Brother Tsung, I'll make the decision. Everything we obtain this time will be equally split between us. How is that? Good. I'll leave it to Brother Chihu then. Wang Lin faintly smiled. In truth, he would like to not use the Divine Retribution Lightning if possible. He only had one of these and considering the structure of this fragment, it would be hard for even him to escape. In conclusion, it would be bad for him too. In addition, Wang Lin believed that the best opportunity to kill this woman would be back on Suzaku without all the limitations. Chihu turned around and said to Red Butterfly, Red Butterfly, please put away your treasure. Red Butterfly let out a light snort before waving her right hand, causing the flower as well as the petal to disappear. Red Butterfly stared at Wang Lin and said, Donghua, do you dare to battle me once we return to Suzaku? Wang Lin laughed and said, I'm willing to accompany you. Wang Lin crushed the restriction in his hand and the black fog turned back into a flag that flew back into his bag of holding. As for the Thunder Toad, it was also put away. However, it was heavily injured and looked very weak, making the killing intent in Wang Lin's heart increase. Red Butterfly looked deeply at Wang Lin. She couldn't help but admit that this person had the ability to fight against her. Chihu secretly relaxed a bit and bitterly smiled in his heart. If he knew that these two had history, then no matter what, he wouldn't have called both of them. Red Butterfly was normal, but Song Nyo could battle a late-stage soul formation cultivator, while only at the early stage of soul formation. He was not simple. This type of person will definitely shine in Suzaku, and might even be taken as a disciple of Suzaku. Chihu took a deep breath and clasped his hands. Okay, Red Butterfly and Brother Song Nyo, please follow me. The location in the jade is still far away from here. After he finished speaking, he turned and flew away. Red Butterfly didn't even look at Wang Lin as she turned into a red cloud and caught up to Chihu. She clearly wasn't willing to follow and stay behind. Wang Lin revealed a mocking expression as he followed behind them. Wang Lin secretly thought, in the end, her mind and heart are too unstable. Although reaching the late stage of soul formation in 100 years is indeed a miracle, there are still many problems. Her heart is too weak. It is just flying. What's the difference between being in front or behind? If I fight her with my current cultivation level, unless I use the restriction flag to trigger the Divine Retribution Lightning, there is no chance of me winning. My life and death domain has a hard time affecting an almost completed ruthless domain. However, if I were to reach the mid-stage of soul formation, with the control I would have of my domain, I would be able to affect her. At that point, even without triggering the Divine Retribution Lightning, I would have a 70% chance of defeating her. Wang Lin's life and death domain was derived from the Heaven's reincarnation cycle, but he was only at the early stage of soul formation, so he couldn't fully display its power. After all, he had only just started comprehending the heavens. But once he reaches the mid-stage of soul formation, his domain will reach another level, allowing him to compete with the ruthless domain. Wang Lin secretly thought, I wonder if she has reached a stage where she doesn't need to rely on techniques. Well, given her Dao heart, it is likely she hasn't. It seems I'm one step ahead of her in that department. After reaching the soul formation stage, Wang Lin had an increasing feeling that aside from some very mysterious techniques, almost all other techniques were useless. A soul formation cultivator could easily control the power of the heavens with a wave of their hand, so the most important thing was to understand how to use their domain. The life and death domain was very unpredictable. It focused on the word change. However, even just the word change was not easy to understand. After all, Wang Lin had only just started trying to comprehend it. When he gains the ability to condense all of his life and death domain into one technique, it can be considered mastered. With life and death in each hand to replace the reincarnation cycle of the heavens. As they flew, Wang Lin carefully recalled his battle with Red Butterfly. The three of them weren't normal people, so they all moved fast. Not long after, they arrived at the other end of the fragment under Chi-Hu's guidance. There was a large mountain here. This mountain was shaped like a dragon with its head in the clouds. The clouds made the dragon's head look unreal. This was a rare immortal cultivation ground. Wang Lin raised his head and looked at the mountain as he slowly said, "Brother Chi-Hu, why hasn't anyone else found the location shown in the jade? Please explain it to us." Chi-Hu smiled and said, "To tell you the truth, Brother Tsung, the reason I'm confident that no one has found the place is because it is not somewhere that can be accessed through the vortex." Wang Lin's eyes revealed a look of interest. Red Butterfly's eyes focused on Chi-Hu. Chi-Hu laughed. The fragment where the image in the jade shows is a very rare overlapping fragment. Wang Lin's expression slightly changed as he immediately understood. When the celestial realm shattered, the fragments scattered randomly, so there was a chance of some fragments overlapping, making them very hard to discover. Even when arriving randomly from the vortex, they would only arrive on the fragment on top. No one would expect there to be another fragment underneath it. According to this logic, it was pretty safe to assume that no one else had found it yet. Chi-Hu laughed. Also, even the first layer is in some place that can be easily accessed. Due to the harsh weather conditions there, it is impossible to build a transfer formation. Even if someone arrives there by chance, they can't stay for long. Red Butterfly sneered. How did Lord Shizu find it back then? Chi-Hu's eyes lit up and he said, "Red Butterfly, this involves family secrets, so I can't say." Wang Lin looked at the dragon-shaped mountain and remained silent. Chi-Hu's body moved and flew toward the mountain. Soon the three of them arrived at the top of the mountain. Standing on the dragon's head, Chi-Hu spread out his divine sense and said, "1 month ago, I came here to check and found that this transfer formation was still intact. Using this transfer formation, we can arrive at the fragment closest to our destination." With that, he stepped into an empty spot. The spot suddenly lit up and Chi-Hu's body disappeared. Red Butterfly looked at Wang Lin. Her eyes lit up and then without a word, she walked into the formation. After Red Butterfly's figure disappeared, Wang Lin calmly walked into the formation. Among the many fragments of the celestial realm in the southern edge, there was a fragment that was filled with raging cold currents and ice covered the ground. When Wang Lin walked out of the formation in the sky, he frowned. However, looking at Red Butterfly, she revealed a look of comfort. This environment clearly not only didn't harm her, it felt very good for her. Chi-Hu seriously said, "Fellow cultivator Red Butterfly, this is the path to the first layer of the fragment that is 300,000 kilometers to the east. This is a land of ice and we need your abilities to block out the cold. Once we pass this land of ice, it will be the void. I have a star compass to ensure that the three of us don't get lost. Brother Tsung, those soul-like things you control are very useful in the void, so please don't hold back. Once we are past the void, we will have reached the first fragment. After all, there's no transfer array there, so this is the only way to ensure that the three of us get there." Listening to this, Wang Lin finally understood that Chi-Hu had invited him for his wandering souls. It seemed there was an obstacle that could easily be passed with wandering souls. Red Butterfly's body flew into the air and quickly moved eastward. In the blink of an eye, the three of them disappeared into the distance. However, after flying several kilometers, Wang Lin looked back at the direction they came from and revealed a look of doubt. Even for the three of them, a 300,000-kilometer journey would take a while. On this day, the three of them arrived at 300,000 kilometers from the starting point. At this eastern edge of the fragment, the earth seemed to have been torn. Past the earth was the endless void.